A mercenary with terminal cancer gains regenerative powers through torture, becomes effectively immortal while trapped in constant pain, and decides to process this by making jokes and occasionally saving people while killing many others. The 2016 film adaptation generated over $780 million worldwide. At any given convention, you will find dozens of people dressed as this character, some adding their own creative variations. Mermaid Deadpool, Pirate Deadpool, Deadpool riding a unicorn. This is not just fandom, this is something closer to religious devotion. This is about what happens when an audience sees itself in a character, and the character they see is someone who has given up on being whole and settled for being entertaining. My name is Winston Eves, and today from my library, we are examining why audiences love Deadpool. Not whether the films are entertaining or well made, but why people form genuine emotional attachments to this character specifically. What he provides that other characters cannot. I first noticed it years before the films. Not online, not in theaters, in classrooms. As an undergraduate, I began noticing the same symbol repeated across campus, on backpacks, hoodies, phone cases, lanyards, and dorm rooms. Always the same red mask. The people wearing it were not loud. They were not dominant personalities. They were withdrawn, observant, and introverted. Their conversations drifted back to the character constantly. Quotes, references, inside jokes. It appeared less like enthusiasm and more like orientation. That was when it became unsettling. Let's examine the obvious reasons. The humor. He's irreverent, crude, and self-aware. The action is violent, creative, and over the top. The breaking of the fourth wall. He knows he's fictional and tells you he knows. Then there's the personality. Chaotic, unpredictable, and impossible to pin down.
Winston, those are perfectly good reasons to love a character, yeah? He funny, he wild, he does not take himself too serious. People come home tired, stressed, world heavy, and here come a man in red cracking jokes while everything explodes. That is entertainment, man. Sometimes people just want to laugh and feel good. Why everything must have deeper meaning hiding underneath?
Because when a character generates billions of dollars, inspires devoted followings who create elaborate cosplay variations, and appears at conventions in numbers rivaling far older, more established characters, something beyond simple entertainment is occurring. Deadpool first appeared in 1991 in New Mutants 98, created by Fabian Nicieza and Rob Liefeld. Originally a villain, later an anti-hero. For 2 decades he remained moderately popular in comics, beloved by dedicated fans, but not mainstream. Various animated appearances and video games. But the cultural phenomenon occurred in 2016 when the first film, starring Ryan Reynolds, earned over $780 million worldwide, becoming the highest grossing R-rated film at the time. The 2018 sequel earned over $785 million. And suddenly, Deadpool was everywhere. Not just in theaters, at conventions, in memes, and cultural discourse. The film version specifically transformed him from niche comic character to mainstream cultural fixture. The Ryan Reynolds interpretation became definitive for most audiences. The devotion is notable. At any major convention, Comic-Con, PAX, anime conventions, Deadpool cosplayers appear in remarkable numbers, and not just standard costumes, creative variations. Deadpool will merge with other characters, Deadpool in historical costumes, gender-bent versions, Deadpool riding inflatable unicorns. Their creativity suggests deep personal investments.
That just sounds like people having fun with cosplay though, Winston. They like the character, so they dress up as him, remix him, add their own flavor. That is fandom, man. That is creativity. Humans like to play dress up. Does not mean they worship the man or turning it into some strange ritual, yeah?
The variations are significant because they suggest most people are not just replicating the character, they are personalizing him, making him theirs, expressing something about themselves through his imagery. That is not casual fandom, that is identification. So we acknowledge the obvious. The film version of Deadpool is funny, violent, self-aware, and entertaining. Those qualities attract initial attention, but they do not explain the level of personal investment. They do not explain why people describe him as speaking to something in them, why they incorporate him into their own self-expression. Let us begin with what makes Deadpool, specifically the film version, psychologically distinct. He is in constant pain. His cancer is permanent. His healing factor prevents death, but not suffering. His face is disfigured, his body is scarred, and his response to all of this is to make jokes. The comic version of Deadpool has varied across decades and writers. Some runs emphasized tragedy, others pure comedy. Some made him sympathetic, others made him grotesque. But the 2016 film solidified a specific interpretation. Trauma transformed into performance, pain weaponized as humor. Watch the structure in the films. Wade Wilson receives his cancer diagnosis, undergoes torture to activate mutation, emerges disfigured, loses the woman he loves, not because she rejects him, but because he rejects himself. And from that moment forward, every piece of pain becomes material for jokes.
But Winston, that resilience, no? The man go through hell, body broken, life upside down, and still find a way to laugh. That takes strength, man. That is not giving up. That is surviving with humor intact. Plenty people wish they could still joke after pain like that.
Resilience processes trauma. Deadpool performs trauma. There is a difference. Resilience would involve healing, integration, and growth. Deadpool's humor prevents all three. Every moment that approaches genuine emotion, he interrupts it. Every opportunity for vulnerability, he deflects. The jokes are not alongside the pain, they replace engagement with it. And audiences recognize this mechanism because many employ it themselves. The preemptive joke that prevents serious conversation, the self-deprecation that beats others to the criticism, the performance of not caring that protects you from consequences of caring. Modern culture often treats sincerity as weakness. Emotional honesty is cringe. Caring deeply makes you a target. So people learn defensive humor. Deadpool has perfected it. He is deeply vulnerable, disfigured, in pain, desperate for acceptance, but he never lets you see it without immediately undermining it with comedy. In the comics, this varied. Some writers allowed him moments of genuine pathos. The films, particularly the first one, established a pattern more rigidly. Pain exists to be made funny, and that resonated with audiences who live in an environment that punishes emotional honesty while rewarding entertainment.
So people love film Deadpool because he's showing them how to survive by being funny? Like saying, if life hurting you nonstop, you better make a joke first before it swallow you whole. Because pain easier to manage when you laughing at it instead of sitting with it.
They love him because he demonstrates that if you make your damage entertaining enough, no one will ask you to actually heal, including yourself. The humor becomes permission to remain broken. Now we examine Deadpool's most distinctive characteristic in the film. The breaking of the fourth wall. The acknowledgement that you, specifically, are watching. In comics, Deadpool's fourth wall breaking is textual, speaking in caption boxes, referencing writers, acknowledging comic book conventions. In animation and games, it appears occasionally as meta commentary, but the film is made it direct and personal. He speaks to you. The camera becomes your eyes, and you are not just observing, you're included. This creates something psychologically powerful. When Deadpool looks at the camera and talks to you, he's not just breaking fiction, he is creating a relationship. You are his confidant, his companion. He includes you in jokes, shares observations with you, and makes you feel less alone by acknowledging your presence.
That brilliant though, Winston. He talks straight to the audience. Look at you like you part of the joke, like you inside the secret with him. That make people feel special, man. Seen, like somebody finally talking their language. No wonder people dress up as him everywhere. They feel like they know him personally.
Precisely. And that feeling of personal connection is what many audiences desperately need. Modern life is isolating. People feel disconnected from communities, from institutions, from each other. Vulnerability feels dangerous. Actual intimacy requires risk, but Deadpool provides connection without vulnerability. He talks to you, but never asks you to be real back. He includes you, but never demands emotional honesty. He makes you feel seen without requiring you to actually be known. This is companionship with training wheels. And at conventions, this manifests as cosplay. People wear his mask, literally and metaphorically. They become Deadpool. They adopt his armor of humor. They experience what it feels like to be someone who can deflect everything, joke about anything, and never have to be vulnerable. And notice the variations. Deadpool merged with other characters. Deadpool in different settings. The creative addition suggests people are not just replicating, they are expressing themselves through his framework. using his mask to say something about themselves they cannot say directly.
So the cosplay is like borrowing his armor then, trying on his way of being in the world. Like saying, just for today, I get to be the one who laugh first, joke first, never show the soft parts underneath.
The cosplay is practicing distance, practicing humor as defense, practicing the performance of not acting, practicing the performance of not caring while being surrounded by community. You can be vulnerable, you're in a costume, exposed at convention. But the mask provides safety. You are not you, you're Deadpool, and Deadpool is untouchable. The film versions establish this direct relationship with the audience in a way that comics never quite achieved at scale. And that relationship is what transformed casual fans into devoted followers who return to him repeatedly, who incorporate him into their identity, who describe him as meaningful. Now we will address Deadpool's position as an anti-hero, what that classification provides, and why audiences embrace it. The film version of Deadpool is explicitly not a traditional hero. He kills extensively, often creatively, always with jokes. He lies, manipulates, operates according to self-interest, and the films frame this as charming rather than condemning, and audiences respond by describing him as heroic anyways. This is not condemnation of the character or audience, this is observation of the function. The film version provides something traditional heroes cannot: permission to be imperfect, to be selfish sometimes, to fail at being good while still being likable. Traditional heroes are aspirational. They represent what you could be if you were better. Film Deadpool is relational. He represents what you already are, including your failures, and suggests that it is acceptable. Notice the moral framework in the films. Deadpool occasionally does heroic things, saves Vanessa, protects Russell in the sequel, helps the X-Men when convenient, but these are exceptions to his baseline selfishness. The film frames doing the right things as a generous choice rather than basic expectation. And this lowered bar is psychologically comforting. If Deadpool can be considered heroic while being deeply flawed, inconsistent, and violent, then you can be a good person while also being deeply flawed and inconsistent. The anti-hero provides moral permission for imperfection. In the comics, Deadpool's morality is varied by the writer. Some made him genuinely heroic, others more mercenary. The films established a consistent middle ground, mostly selfish, with occasional generosity. Just good enough to be the protagonist, just flawed enough to be relatable. The film version demonstrates that you do not have to meet impossible standards to be worthwhile. That being damaged does not disqualify you, that trying even inconsistently is sufficient. And for audiences who feel they are constantly failing at being good enough, at work, in relationships, morally, and politically, that message is extraordinarily comforting. This is why the convention cosplayers add often personal touches. They are not trying to be perfectly accurate to the film. They are using Deadpool as a framework to express their own version of good enough. Their own flawed but trying self. The character becomes permission to exist as you are rather than as you should be. And now we'll address the phenomenon already mentioned, the cult-like devotion, the religious fervor with which some audiences embrace this character. At major conventions, Deadpool cosplayers often outnumber other characters, except perhaps the most iconic, Batman, Spider-Man, and Harley Quinn. But unlike those characters, Deadpool cosplayers frequently travel in groups, form communities, create elaborate variations. The investment suggests something beyond typical fandom. Mermaid Deadpool, Steampunk Deadpool, Deadpool merged with Venom, with Spider-Man, with Disney princesses. The variations are endless and deeply personal. People are not replicating the film, they are using the character as a canvas for self-expression.
But Winston, that sounds like creativity and community to me, man. People finding each other through shared love of a character, making friends, building inside jokes, feeling like they belong somewhere. Why call it cult? That feel harsh for people just enjoying themselves and not hurting anyone.
Cult is perhaps dramatic, but the devotion is notable. People describe Deadpool not as my favorite character, but as speaking to me personally. They attribute meaning to his humor, his pain, his approach to existence, and they describe him as teaching them something or validating something they already felt. This is the language of a personal revelation, not just entertainment. When people say Deadpool gets it or understands, they are not discussing his plot or his jokes. They're discussing his relationship to pain, his strategy for survival, and his transformation of damage into identity. The film version crystallized this. Before 2016, Deadpool had dedicated comic fans. After 2016, he had something closer to a movement. People who found his specific combination of pain and humor in a mirror to their own existence. And they expressed that through cosplay, through fan art, through online communities.
So the costume is like armor then. They wear Deadpool so they can feel safe being themselves. Or maybe safe being the version of themselves that hurt a little, joke too much, and do not know how to heal properly.
They wear Deadpool to feel safe being damaged. The character provides framework where being broken is not shameful. It is the premise, where humor as defense is not weakness, it is a strategy. Where refusing vulnerability is not failure, it is survival. And at conventions, surrounded by others wearing the same mask, people experience community based on shared recognition. We are all broken. We all use humor. We all keep people at distance while desperately not wanting to be alone. The costume becomes a tribe marker. This is what makes the devotion appear cult-like. It is not worship of the character. It is recognition of self in the character. And when you find a mirror that reflects your pain and tells you that pain is acceptable, even admirable, if performed correctly, you hold on to that mirror. So we arrive at an understanding what the film version of Deadpool provides, why audiences, particularly after 2016, form such intense attachments, what function he serves. He is not aspirational. He is not inspiring you to be better. He is validating who you already are. Someone in pain who uses humor as armor. Someone who maintains distance from sincerity because sincerity has proven dangerous. Someone who wants connection but settles for the appearance of it. Someone trying their best while knowing their best is inconsistent. The film specifically established this framework. The comic versions varied, sometimes darker, sometimes more heroic, sometimes more tragic. But Ryan Reynolds' interpretation created the definitive mainstream version. A man in constant pain who has decided to make that pain into entertainment. To never heal, only perform. To never be vulnerable, only funny.
And people really saw themselves in that? In someone who stopped trying to heal and just turned everything into performance instead? That heavy, Winston. That means a lot of people feel like healing not even an option anymore.
They saw someone surviving the way they survived, using the mechanisms they use. And the film told them, this is not just acceptable, this is heroic. You are not broken, you are Deadpool. And Deadpool is beloved. This is why the convention cosplayers appear in such numbers, why they create variations, why they form communities. They are not celebrating a film character, they are celebrating recognition. The red mask covers scars, but the scars are what matter. Not because they justify anything, but because they explain. An explanation for many people is the closest they can get to acceptance. The comment section is open. Tell me which part of him feels most like looking in a mirror. Tell me what wearing his mask, literally or metaphorically, allows you to feel. Because Deadpool succeeded not by being the best superhero movie or having the funniest comedy. It succeeded by showing millions of people a reflection they recognize. And those millions formed what looks like a cult, not because they worship him, but because they finally found a mirror that did not show them as failures, that showed them as fighters, as survivors, and protagonists. $2.4 billion, countless convention appearances, endless creative variations, all because a film showed audiences that people can be broken and refuse to heal, make everything a joke, and still be loved. Perhaps that is not the message the film intended, but it is the message audiences received, and they received it gratefully.